Gaffer, and I'm back with Jane Middleton. Jane is Senior Asset Management Consultant at Atkins Realis. She's a chartered geologist. She got shortlisted for an award, Inspiring Women in Construction and Engineering Award, back in 2023. And we're going to talk about something that she got involved with that I thought was particularly very interesting. It's nothing so much related to her actual career choice. It's more related to the wider issue of wearing equipment or wearing PPE or wearing workwear and how that is manufactured and who has that been manufactured for generationally through construction and why it was the way it was, and everybody just accepted that that's just the way it was. But she got involved with a very interesting project which has since then become a standard, a British standard, and it's a really good story for women, but also for the industry. And I think it's something we should be shouting about. And I think you might get very much inspired by her career, her story, and this podcast. So, Jane, welcome to I'm the Gaffer.
Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on board. You went to Portsmouth, you done geology in Portsmouth, and then you done geology again in Southampton. No particular reason other than they liked water, or what was the story for that?
Unintentionally, that they are directly next to each other cities, but also very much competitive in their sports. So between the two, that's the sort of the rivalries between the two. But they were both great for geology. I did an undergraduate and then a master's, and then the Portsmouth had the specialist master's, which was in engineering geology, which is where I started off, which is where the beginning of my career and where I went out on site quite a lot. But not really a water baby. I don't really know why I chose the South Coast.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing got to do with the water, no. Oh, okay. No. Portsmouth is good for health and safety is our background as well. So the university will be well known for that as well. And then you went into the big bad world. Did you go straight into Atkins? Because Atkins, for those people who don't know, Jane, if you don't mind, just give them a quick introduction because we have a wide audience and maybe some people know them inside out, but some people might not be aware.
Yeah, absolutely. So Atkins are a multidisciplinary engineering design company. They're very large company numbers-wise, as in they have about 50,000 employees. They are right now Atkins Realis, but in previously have been WS Atkins, S&C Lavalin, and quite a few iterations. And we were talking about earlier sort of acquiring other companies. Other companies are coming under the Atkins Realis branding. But yeah, we do a whole host of things. So geology, which is where I started off, but lots of governmental stuff, defence, nuclear, a lot of the very big projects, sort of Hinkley, Sizewell, or in the UK, but internationally as well. I think we're in most countries. We've got offices in all around the world. Based out of Canada is our the parent company. Yeah. But originally, in the old days, was William Atkins from Epsom in London.
That's right, WS Atkins, wasn't it, back in the day?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, the offices used to be out of his house. So when I first started, the Atkins Mansion, just a house in some grounds, was our office.
Go on.
And they've since developed it into a big, fancy sort of corporate office, but you've still got his main house is within the grounds. It's quite nice.
Cool. That's very cool. Yeah, their banner used to be hanging from a lot of highway, motorways, and bridges back in the day. I think they've moved on quite a bit since then in terms of infrastructure projects, defence, nuclear, water treatment, and energy. Is it like you pretty much have got all the big stuff?
Everything, yeah. Even things like hospitals, prisons, consultancy, oil and gas, mining, you name it. Anything engineering-ish, we probably do it.
So if you're looking for a job, get on to no, it's not WS, it's Atkins Realis now.
Atkins Realis, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a very strong graduate program in there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's what I started on, was a graduate program. Yeah, I think there was about 350 graduates who I started with. Yeah, isn't that incredible?
Oh my God. Yeah. How do you manage a program to bring in 300. Let's talk about that as a podcast.
I know. Well, and because they had so many, I remember the first introductory, so like your first week at Atkins, you go to essentially a conference. They hire out a big conference hotel somewhere in the centre of the country, and you do a couple of days of, you hear talks from the senior leadership team, you meet other people, but they're not all people who you're going to work with. You might have nuclear people, you might have, acoustic engineers, water engineers, so people who might never cross.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that was my first insight into corporate world, or like week
Wow.
one, thinking, oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Very different to university and everything I experienced.
Construction on steroids, basically. Unbelievable. Yeah. So like senior asset management consultant, that's a bit away from chartered geologist, if you don't mind me saying so, as far as I can think, or as far as I know. Two totally different roles.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that then.
So like I said, I started on the grad scheme as an engineering geologist. So I sort of worked my way through the ranks. And as an engineering geologist, you're involved in any engineering that involves the ground. So I had all sort of water projects, rail, road, and I spent about 7 years working with that team, and I absolutely loved it. It was so technical. Half the people I worked with had PhDs. They're all writing papers that are going back to universities and into like textbooks that people would study, like an incredibly technical world. And that's where I got sort of charted through that, because you're completely immersed in, it's not very far from a university experience, really, which is, it's really nice. And during that time, I worked on the M25. So that's the road that goes around London. It's one of the busiest motorways in Europe. And it is what they call safety critical or national infrastructure. So it means that it nearly always has to be up and running in some way, shape or form, because it's the route to the airports, to the city, into, for all of the travel across Europe. And when I was working on that project, I was part of the geotechnical asset management team. So what that means is managing geotechnical assets. So the ground that the road runs on, and that the lighting columns are stuck in, and that the barriers are like held in. So all of the ground supports all of that. So when you have a landslide, obviously it's a bit of a problem for the road users, but it takes out with the lighting columns, the signs, the barriers. So how do you stop that? So you manage that. So I did like that for years.
You need Jane.
and a few other people as well. not just a single man band. But I did that for many years, and then I realized actually asset management is what I want to do. It's it can be applied to any different industry. If you Google asset management, you'll often come up with finance, so financial assets.
Yes.
So people who have like stocks and shares or trade in expensive cars. So when you're looking, when I was looking for jobs, that is what came up. But actually, I still work in sort of the infrastructure space, so like physical assets. So I'm working at the moment with water. So water assets, the pipes and the pumping stations and all of that. So that's how I sort of sidestepped.
It is like asset management is it's a fascinating area. We would do a bit of work ourselves in power plants and stuff like that, and to see the technology, how advanced the technology is in terms of asset management and risk prevention programs that are in place that people just never even know exist. But yet there's something going on in an engineering capacity that's keeping everybody safe, and that's all you need to know for the general person. But like,
we think
you
about
guys
airports
in the background,
nuclear
airports.
or even it was also asset management all kicked off or started anyway with is it Piper Alpha, the oil rig where they had an accident off of Scotland. So that was sort of the initiation of, okay, what can we learn from this incident? So that was a oil rig, and there was multiple fatalities because there was a fire on board. But it was something that could have been prevented if all of the elements of the rig were managed better, so they knew when to replace them and knew when they were faulty. So it's really got really interesting history.
Yeah, like for anyone that doesn't know, like a lot of the power plants would do outages regularly during the year, and you just see stuff that's getting taken out, and you go like, but there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it, but there could be something wrong with it. I remember doing small story. We were doing a job in Ireland in a hydro station, and Siemens had been the one that pretty much designed, manufactured, and installed the equipment for the hydro station. And for one bolt alone that was on the casing, it took the guys nearly 3 months to remove that bolt, that one bolt, about that size. And the whole purpose of the project was nobody knew what was going on inside the casing of the shaft, because it's been done in the 1940s or 50s, stuff like that. And everybody was kind of saying, well, what if this breaks down and we're in trouble, you know? So we might as well get in and sort of replace out and go, and, you know, as part of risk prevention. Eventually got inside it, not a squib wrong with the system at all. At all. It was like as if it came out of packaging brand new. And everybody was looking at each other going, jeez.
It was worth a check though.
3 months on one bolt though.
Yeah, but I mean, they're lucky. I mean, most things from 1940s, I guess, are built a bit better. But I would imagine that anything modern, you know, they're not built to the same standard that they were, not to have the same life.
Yeah,
so
true.
You sort of assume that they're not going to last as long.
Yeah, it's a brilliant, it's a great career to be in. So well done you for picking that out. Go on.
Yeah.
What happened then? You decided you put on a pair of Snickers and you decided it didn't fit you.
So I mean, what happened was, as a graduate, as an engineering geologist, you spend a lot of time out on site. So you're supervising drilling rigs, borehole rigs, or they're digging holes, or you're supervising construction. So you're out on site, you know, like in oranges or, you know, high-vis clothing. And my first big project was the Heathrow expansion project. So when they were looking at, back in like 2018, looking at expanding Heathrow and building a third runway down there. So I was out on site doing lots of drilling. So a year and a half, and you're wearing high-vis clothing every single day. So it's jacket, trousers, you're wearing your boots, your hard hat, gloves, glasses, the whole lot. And I remember you just order your first day on when you arrive, you order your PPE, it just comes off the website, you order, you know, small, medium, large, which one do you think you're going to fit into? I'm a petite woman, so small, fine. So I remember you get a 4x4 vehicle, so like a Hilux that you have to drive around the sites in, because it's fields at this rate, it's not built yet. And I couldn't lift my leg high enough to get up into the Hilux. Like, as in the trousers were so tight, because men's legs are generally a bit thinner than women's. Women's have got slightly bigger hips, bigger thighs, and then they're shorter, squatter. And I remember having to sort of like both hands like hop myself into the vehicle. I just thought, no, this is just like, you know, something. And when I speak about it, so many women and men say, oh yeah, I do the same thing. And I think, well, do you not think about like, why can't you lift your leg up to go up a step? Like, surely that's not right. Like, if you bought a high street clothing, you would say, oh, that doesn't fit me, I'll go and get a better size. But because it's workwear, we just say, oh, that'll do. I don't want to make the company spend another £20, £40 ordering me some more trousers. But you think if when you're wearing them every single day, so I'm wearing them for like 10 hours a day, in and out of this truck all the time, going up and down stairs, climbing over fences, and you just don't have like the full range of motion. So what I did is I had a look online, sort of elsewhere, so outside of my company's catalogue, and I found that there was loads of like women-specific clothing that was available, but my company didn't stock it in their catalogue. So I went back to them and I was like, why do we not? Like, this is an option. You have lots of women who work for you. You're very progressive. You know, like, we're a big company. You're shouting about equality and keeping women in the workforce. Why don't we do a bit better?
I can hear them now, Jane. It's her again. It's her again. She's back again. She's causing trouble.
Rolling your eyes. Yeah, come on. What's your problem now? So I sent them a list of things, and I said, look, I would like to try these. I've got an option where I can go and buy them, and we can expense the money back, or you can put them on your website, and then you can allow the other women, like the other 30% of your workforce who are women. Would you like them to try it on too? So anywho, what I did was we sort of like revolutionized the catalogue. It moved away from men's clothing, because I was saying before we started, but men's clothing is based on what they call the average man. So the average man is like a term they use in standardization. So it was based in like the 1970s, a 5'8" white male who's a slim build. So women don't always fit that sizing. They're shorter, they're taller. But the same with men. You've got short men, you've got tall men, you've got men who are really broad, men with really big feet. So anything that is just not that average size, like nothing really fit them. And even if you've got a very tall but a slim man, he might have to order an XXL for the sleeve length, but now the jacket absolutely swamps him because it's just massive. So so I went back to my company and I said, come on, we can do better. So what they did is they expanded their selection for women's clothes. I went round to all of the offices and I said, look, women's clothes are on the website, order them so it looks like that they're in demand, which they were. And so many people put them on and just said, oh, it fits me. And I had all these comments of people saying, when I first went to site, I had my big waterproof jacket on and they say, oh, is that your dad's coat? And you think, oh, I'm actually a professional. I'm here. I'm meant to be like, the client on site. I'm meant to be in charge and you're treating like I come across as unprofessional. I don't really belong here because I can't find any clothes that fit me. So we got different jackets. We've got things like maternity wear as well. So for some sites, for example, on like rail sites, sometimes when you sit in an office, you have to wear high vis. You're not necessarily going out on site and being in danger, but in order to like not remove those opportunities from people, you can have like a slightly bigger sort of bump jacket or top. We've got some modesty wear as well. So women who wear hijabs. We have a flame retardant hijab. So people who work in electricity and gas can go out to site. Things like really small boots as well, really big boots. So men who've got size 14 feet, women who've got size 3 feet who just couldn't go to site. So as graduates, they were never getting any of that experience. And they were just told, okay, well, you just stay in the office. But actually, you get so much experience from being outside, seeing stuff in real life.
Wow. And did you sorry to cut across you, Jane, because I find it a fascinating subject. The fact that they even said that the person had to be white back in the day, it just goes to show you how old that mantra was in terms of and you would think that the manufacturers would have picked up on this a lot earlier than
what they say.
2023, 2022, maybe you're talking about this, are you?
Yeah, but they're saying there's no demand for it. So because people were saying, I've actually got a really small face and my glasses keep falling off, or I have to tuck them, like under my hard hat to keep them on my face. No one was talking to the manufacturers or suppliers. They were saying to their employer, "This is really annoying, it doesn't fit me." And the employer would be like, "Oh, well, we'll just get you the smallest size." So there was no sort of like accountability. Whereas now, I think because the conversation's a bit more, you might have seen it on LinkedIn, or like people talk about it a bit more, it's a bit more acceptable to say, this is what my problem is. Is there a solution out there? I mean, things like, and the white male, it comes back to like a face shape. So Asian women have a really small like cheekbone, so glasses don't fit them. But then people from like an Afro-Caribbean background have a much wider face. So things like glasses or hard hats don't fit on some people who've got a really big head, or who have afros, or who wear dreadlocks or have braids. So then they either have to work out when they go to the hairdresser and have it all taken out before they go to site, or don't go to site at all. Or they can say, all right, well, we can find you a hard hat that fits. So it's just, all these things that you don't realise because you don't have it yourself.
Yeah, but like even something as simple as the old rigger boots, especially the engineers. The engineers were always thrown a pair of brown tanned rigger boots. And they're probably one of the worst kind of footwear you could wear from a safety perspective, because obviously you're in groundworks and you're going across heavy soil, maybe peaty soil, concrete, whatever else, and next thing, all of a sudden, you have one boot on and one boot off, but the other boot is still stuck in the mud behind. Or you're gone straight over, and like we've seen plenty of trip hazards with regards, and they're not banned, but there's a problem with them, like in regards to application. But You're right. You're absolutely right. Like there's a design issue both from a wearability point of view, but also from a safety point of view, a comfort point of view, a gender point of view, a religious aspect. Was there any other aspects that you seen?
Yeah, so there is actually that women who go through the menopause, so they have a
Okay.
lot of symptoms, and this is something that hasn't really been much of a, I say hasn't been a problem, it always has been a problem, but women who were experiencing these symptoms probably just said, you know what, I'm not going to go to site anymore. So when they hit, 45 to 16, end of their career, even though when they're the most experienced, they
Yeah.
say, well, I don't really belong on site. So things like when you have a hot flush, so the
Yeah.
ability to have layers. So now there's quite a lot of clothing which is like summer wear, so like really light polo shirts, long sleeve shirts, and you can get light jackets and waterproof jackets that are a bit more breathable. So the ability to have layers. So like
Yeah.
that's a whole part that we're working through now to say, could we have a category on our like our PPE catalogue that says, what have you got for religious reasons? So your Sikhs who don't wear a hard hat, they wear their turban, but is there anything they can put inside their turban, like a bump cap, which they have on the
Yeah.
rail industries? That's like a piece of hard plastic that sits on top of their head, which prevents any rocks, like causing them some injury. So I mean, like, there's so many things, and there's more and more things coming out the woodwork. Another one was people who've got poor dexterity. So people
Yeah.
who've worked with vibration tools for their whole life and they get halves. So their
Yeah.
fingers don't work so well. They haven't got a feeling in the end of their fingers. So tying shoelaces is a bit of a
Yeah.
problem. So
Yeah.
they have a new range of boots which have like a dial. So the
Oh yeah.
lace is
Seen them.
actually,
Seen them
yeah.
actually. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great idea.
that's so good for people who either have like early onset Parkinson's or dexterity issues, or they use them a lot on the roads where you're driving for a long way and people undo their laces because it's more comfortable to drive in boots which are a bit more roomy. But when they
Yeah.
get out of the car, they stand on their laces and trip over because they don't do them up straight away. Whereas
Yeah.
this wheel with no hanging down laces, it removes that slips, trips, and falls, like tripping over your own laces,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
really is such a small change, but for some people that'd be the whole world of difference.
Yeah. Love it. I absolutely love it. Tell me, did somebody just ring you and say, "We hear you're doing great things in Atkins, and we want you to get involved with writing a paper on this"? Or how did you get involved with actually doing this with the standard,
So
building out the standard?
so it started off, so I was part of a group called Boulders Brass. So it's a women's network. So what it was started off by women who worked in heavy industry, particularly mining. So they worked out on sites all around the world, and they were saying, like, our trousers aren't waterproof enough. Does anyone know of something that fits me? Or
Yeah.
when you wear an overall, so sometimes when you work on like really dirty sites, you wear an overall, but then when you go to the toilet, you have to, like, and men have this too, you have to take off the whole overall to sit in the toilet, and then everything gets dirty on the floor, like your hands, where your gloves are. So they started off as a group who essentially were campaigning, mostly on LinkedIn, but were like to local MPs and to their companies. And it became a bit more of a talking point, so there's a bit more sort of press around it. And there's a woman called Catherine Evans who's pretty much started this whole getting all these women together. So we have people who are like tree surgeons, plumbers, plasterers, as well as the construction industry, mining, farmers. And we
Yeah.
sort of pooled our knowledge of what what people thought fit them well. And then we would go to manufacturers and say, the trousers that they're new on the market, when I put my phone in my pocket, it falls out. You need to make your pockets deeper. You need to put stretchy material because, like, watch me sit down and you can see how the button pops open. So what we
Yeah.
were doing is giving them direct feedback, and then they started to build a relationship with the manufacturers and the suppliers. We had like a group of people who were different ethnicities, different sizes, men and women. So we were giving them really great feedback for their women's ranges or even for their men's ranges, like outside of the, like,
Yeah.
how do you get men to speak up a bit more? And we can say, right, this is a really great avenue. So from that, there was like an open invite. Who would like to be involved in writing this new British standard? So what they were asking for was people to basically sit in a Teams meeting and say, right, what do we need to have in there? How would we like the text to look? are we covering all the aspects? So what it does, it says they wanted people who wore PPE, people who supplied PPE, people who made PPE. So it could be anyone from fire service, aviation, military, police, NHS. All of those industries came together in one room. You had people from
Wow.
sports backgrounds as well. So someone was fencing, like
Yeah.
French fencing, but it was bringing those people into a room and saying, what are the pain points? So as a wearer, what are your pain points? As a manufacturer, how would you address them? Or is this sort of outside of your remit? Where can we sort of document it? So it was a really fascinating process, and the range of people who were in the room. It was really incredible
Yeah.
to hear the different responses, I think, as well.
Wow. Tell me, did just I'm curious, outside of construction, did you get anybody in from defence?
So they did, and what they're actually doing is they are writing a more specific standard. So there's going to be sort of an add-on to this one, which is defence, so body armour, things like welding, so welding
Yeah.
helmets.
Yeah.
So I think things that are a bit more bespoke, things like the firefighters, they wear an oxygen tank on their back, which
right.
for men, it fits them, but for women, it was like it's too big. So they could get through windows because when you bend down, your oxygen tank still sits up.
Clunk, clunk.
And they did a survey and they said something like 82% of female firefighters said their gloves don't fit. And they said, sorry, 82%. So you're saying only 20% of people who've got gloves that don't fit. Like, have you ever asked
Yeah.
anyone if their clothes
Yeah.
fit them? So this was
Yeah.
like really eye-opening, and I think it probably opened a can of worms, but a good can of worms.
I'm getting visions as you're talking. Like I remember seeing women like in fur clothing, and just looked like a little girl, like with just this big jacket and the whole lot, and big gloves are hanging off them. Like it's the police forces have struggled with it as well, but I think they might be ahead of the curve already in terms of this area.
Yeah, well, and I think it's part of the whole problem is like the fit and the like people feeling safe, not being like snagged on a door handle when you're going through, be able to get into a building when it's burning. But it's
Yeah.
also the feeling of belonging, like not wearing your dad's coat or feeling like, I've never been to site before because none of my clothes fit me, or like the respect from other people. If you're the most senior person on site and you are like instructing, huge amounts of work's going on, you need to look professional. You wouldn't go to a workplace in like a massive oversized suit just because that was the only one that you could find, like in the shop. That's all they had left. You would probably do something about it, have it tailored, or it's just
Tell
really
me,
interesting.
did you specify? Did you do anything on the commercial side of things in terms of making this a commercially viable venture, if you like?
Yeah, so that is a whole big argument, because the argument always was there's no market for it, and when there is a market for it, or the employers would often say women's PPE costs a lot more money because you buy it in smaller batches, they make it in smaller batches. So I can see that being
the production line has to stop for that particular.
Yeah, and I understand for small employers that is a blocker, but the standard, and I guess what they're trying to put down is how much does a life cost or an injury, and then how much does PPE cost. And I think they're trying to say, like, if you weighed it up like that, the amount that you get fined from the regulators.
Like, I think, once it's fit for purpose and it kind of does the job, if it's a little bit big, if it's a little bit small, it's a tough conversation. It's a tough debate just to try and turn it on.
Yeah.
That I think I would honestly, I would have, sorry to cut across you, but I would be thinking more of the fact that you're going to attract people, into your business when it's fine. We're all finding it hard to attract good people into our business to say, hey, look, boom, look what we do here. We have all different ranges of clothing to suit. Like it's an added. I would see it as an added value to the employee to want to work with the likes of Atkins or a company. Do you know what I mean? That they have this kind of value set. That's where I would see it. No.
Yeah, and I'm very privileged that I work for a company who supports what I say. and that they not just me. I mean, there's lots of people, but they and that they have the financial backing that they can go and order stuff, and it's not a problem. But I guess what it comes down to, like you say, with a little bit small and a little bit big, that's fine. Like it can be a little bit big and a little bit small, but it's just the people who haven't got a hard hat that actually fits on their head, or the boots. They can't find any boots that are big enough, so they actually can't go to site. That's where I think people should draw the line and say, no, if something's available on the market, if it costs a bit more, in order for them to go and do their job or to have that learning experience as a new graduate, I think it should be made available.
Yeah,
and it's not to say it only has to belong to that person. You might have one very large hard hat, one very small hard hat, which you can keep in the office store, which like other people could use. It's not just solely your item, but it's the fact that stuff is available in the flame retardant hijab. Are we saying that the fact that that's not been on the market before? I think it came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So we're saying that no women who wear a hijab ever work on gas, electric sites. No one ever breaks ground.
Yeah.
Like there must be women who are doing it, but they're doing it at risk.
Yeah, it's kind of, I can just see the manufacturers looking at it and going, okay, it's a bit like veganism. Okay, you want a different type of sausage, you're going to pay for that.
Yeah. But I guess that's where the choice is. And I mean, maybe I'm saying veganism is a choice. I believe it is. And then I think that you've got the need.
Different podcast, Jane. Don't go there.
We'll cut that out. But but I think I could go to site in men's trousers. That would be fine. Like, as in, I can move, I can do my job. They don't fit me very well, but I can get to site. I can do everything to the best of my ability. Might not look the best, but I can do it. So I think that's where the sort of the line comes in. But interestingly, we've got a woman who works for Atkins called Meg Ginsberg, and she is a wheelchair user. So she wasn't always a wheelchair user. She started as an apprentice. She's a project manager out on water sites, and she would go out on site, and you have to wear high vis for that. And then when she became a wheelchair user, she still goes out on site. And her issue, and she's challenging the manufacturers to say, as when I'm sitting down, so I'm wearing all of my full orange PPE, so from the front you can see me, but from the sides you can't really, and from the back you can't really. So how do we come across that? Do we say that no one in a wheelchair should go out to site? Or do we say that maybe something like a poncho, or I don't know, a high-vis vest, something adapted? Could we work with that? So again, because she works for Atkins support her and say, right, let's go back to the manufacturers and see what they could do, because you're not the only person in this country, in the world, who's ever going to site in a wheelchair. Like, what can we do about it?
Yeah, brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
It's kind of that lateral thinking that sometimes we get caught up in the norm. And when you spoke about the average person being 5'8" and white, and that was basically that's where the designers would start their theory of what they were going to design.
Well, that's where architecture's built on, like buildings and doors and everything like that.
Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind that was the principle.
Yeah. And so at this conference, so the award that I was shortlisted for, they have a pre-conference, so they have lots of women in a room who are either put themselves for awards or were nominated or in teams, and they had a talk from a female architect, and she was talking about this reference man and how they use it. So when you come out of an underpass in a city, they have sort of mapped where a man looks at his eye height and how he can sort of access through the city. And they did a similar thing with women. So they had women who sort of had cameras or a way sort of could track their eye movement and where they were looking. And they did it in like morning, daytime, and nighttime. And they did the same with men, morning, daytime, nighttime. And it was really interesting of what they thought the man could see and what they had sort of programmed and designed, and then what the women actually saw. So then the women were looking in that dark spaces and looking in the bushes, and they would sort of spend a bit more time looking over their shoulder than they would look going forward, and they were looking at sort of a lower level because generally women are shorter than men. But it was just interesting that I didn't even know that was a factor when it comes
Yeah,
into designing things. I don't know.
I did
I'm
not
not an
see that.
architect.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yeah.
Oh my god! But there is a whole piece around ergonomics, and there is a whole piece of legislation around how you need to adapt the person to the technological process and to the environment that they're in and stuff like that. So how workwear never got sort of factored into that thinking, it blows my mind now that we're actually having this conversation that was never even thought of.
So what I think is one of the things that makes me kind of mad. So Wellington boots, Wellington boots you have often on site. You're talking about rigger boots, which are
Yeah,
essentially a shorter version of Wellington boots, which have generally a steel cap, maybe even a steel midsole, so steel at the bottom in
yeah,
the
nice bit of wool
tread.
inside.
Yeah, and so women's feet are a different size to men's feet because they're a bit narrower. They've got a higher arch, and they're sort of like geometrically slightly different. So
Okay.
they make women's boots, they make men's boots, they make women's shoes, men's shoes. They only made the first women's Wellington, that was a safety Wellington, in 2025.
Wow,
As in, it did not exist on the market, it had never been
no
tested,
way.
it had never passed any tests. So, like, as in a Wellington boot that fits a woman's foot. I can fit my foot into a men's boot, but it's like, your feet sort of flop around, like you're saying, the rigger
Yeah,
boots, they're just not really great. And I just
yeah.
thought, wow. And how you're saying, like, how have we got this far into engineering and
It
construction
is.
and
Oh my
farming?
goodness.
How has no one
Yeah, I
ever
just
said to them, "We're missing this bit actually. Do you want to
yeah.
make it for us?"
See, so you told me that that British standard has now been basically signed off, and it's gone to Europe in terms of uh, can this be brought into a European standard and not just a British standard?
Yeah.
Is that the way it's going? Yeah,
Yeah, so the British standard was launched in October 25, so October last year,
yeah.
and it's freely available online to download. It's quite, well, I think
Okay,
it's quite user friendly, as in the words that they're using is not like super technical. So I'd
yeah,
recommend downloading it, sending it to your boss, and saying, "Did you know this exists?" And then we did a parliamentary launch, so we went to Parliament and spoke about it, and then
yeah,
lots of. I'm speaking at a conference next week, health and safety conference, to sort of talk more about it and just
yeah,
say this is why we needed it. It's really good. So the British standards launched, and the next stage, or for them, the next step in the process, is getting Parliament to essentially make it a law in the
wow,
UK. So
wow,
make employers legally bound. And it's not saying that they all must have women's clothing and hijabs in their catalogue. It's just if an employee says that something doesn't fit, that they're sort of entitled to do something about it, and they're
yeah,
encouraged to. You can't just say, "Oh no, you just make it fit you."
yeah,
So yeah, the next step is after the parliament, or one of them, once a parliament's happy with it, at the same time they're going to go into the European standards, which then becomes much more of a global standard. So a lot of
yeah,
around the world they use British standards, but they can sort of pick or choose. Like in the Arab countries or in Asia, they
yeah,
depending on who mainly the designer is whatever country they'll use those standards for.
yeah.
So yeah, that'd be really exciting for
Oh
Europe. I think
yeah.
are very forward thinking, a lot more forward thinking than maybe the Americas or America.
Well, just like I suppose for anyone listening or watching, just because it's not a law now that there is a standard in Britain, and you know, if the legislation will say, as far as remember and recall, and I do recall, if there's a lack of of a legal framework, well, then the next best thing is a standard. So you're already 1 foot in the game or 1-0 up in the game in terms of ownership and taking ownership for this. Like, obviously, it needs to be reasonably practical. That the cost doesn't outweigh the what you're trying to solve. But like as you said it yourself, if you're trying to run out of a situation where there's a fire and you're restricted because of whatever you're wearing and stuff like that, like that's a risk to an individual.
Yeah,
Um,
and the standard helps people feel empowered to go to their employer to say,
yeah,
"Look, I know that I've talked about it before, but actually, this is a document recommending that you do something about it. Can we help each other? because I
Yeah.
can guarantee that your problem is something that someone else is having, maybe in your company or someone else you speak to or in your network. It won't just be you who's having that same problem, and they might not know the solution but could probably help you, point you in the right direction to find out who can help you.
Yeah, and if anything, it's going to improve the procurement process for any business, because you're getting a kind of a framework for how you should challenge your purchasing of PPE, which is a good thing.
And there's also onus on the person who has a PPE, so the employee, to sort of keep track of, like any damages. When did they last clean it?
Yeah,
So it's not all on the employer. It's
yeah,
also about, like if you're getting through 4 pairs of boots a year, the employer might say, what are you doing? You're like, how are
yeah,
you rubbing through these? Are you wearing them wrong? Are they the wrong size?
yeah.
So yeah, I think
That's actually
it's
very true. Yeah, that's very true. There's a cost saving in that in itself, but people tend to probably look after equipment a lot more because, oh my god, I love these pair of gloves, or I love these trousers. You know.
yeah. Well, people talk about having a pair of boots or like a jacket for 20 years because they love it. It fits them well. Like people
Yeah,
will look after stuff better if they've got a pair of boots that fits them amazingly. And it's
yeah,
interesting. So the work that we've done with manufacturers about women's, particularly women's trousers, having them a bit more stretchy,
yeah,
they've brought that technology into men's trousers, and men are saying these are great. They're stretchy, they're breathable, they're a bit more
yeah,
waterproof, and it's amazing that like my selfish passion has actually helped not just women but like men as well, and yeah,
yeah.
the whole industry really.
Oh, look, well done. Kudos to you and to everybody that was involved in that. Like, that's no, absolutely 100%. Anything that's going to improve the quality of workwear and the quality of a person's ability to do their task with a bit of comfort and a bit of safety, like why not?
Yeah.
And well done to you to challenge the pro quota status of what we had been living with, because we didn't know it was a problem until it was it's like it is a problem.
It is, but most people just get on with it. And I just thought, you know what? If I'm going to spend the next 40 years in this career, why not get me a
Yeah.
pair of boots that fit?
So and like obviously you didn't lose your job over it.
Thankfully, not yet. Anyway, no, my
Jane,
Atkins have been very, very supportive.
oh no, well done. No, it's an absolute credit to you. You should be very proud, and like I can't see any reason why it wouldn't go all the way through the for legislation purposes. Like definitely, like it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope it will be sometime soon. I mean, these sorts of things take years, so I don't know when, but I really hope soon.
Cool. Well, look, I'm going to throw a few curveball questions at you because we're coming near the end of the show. So, if you don't mind, Jane,
Go
first
on.
one is, knowing what you know now, Jane Middleton, what would you do different in life?
What would I do differently? I think I would have spoken up. So, how I've spoken up about PPE, I think I would have done that about more things throughout my life, knowing that actually you don't get many repercussions. So, when you see injustices and you think, oh, someone else will do something about that, or something that
Yeah,
doesn't work. Like when my friends, my brother works in agriculture and he says, my boots are terrible. I say, well, say something, message the manufacturer and tell them. And I would like to,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's what I would have done differently is spoken up about more things
yeah, and
earlier.
yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, like my wife won't like me saying this, but I keep on telling her not to be saying things because she just can't go buy something if she's like, no, I have to say something. It's like she'd stop a stranger in the street and say, look, you can't talk to people like that, or
I'd love to have that confidence as a younger person, definitely.
well, look, a favorite book or movie?
Oh God, I don't know. Movie, I'm not sure. Book, I mean, the last one, the one that really sticks in my mind is a book that was quite a popular book called Where the Crawdads Sing, which I think is probably a very, I don't know. It was a nice story about a murder. Does that make it a nice story? It was made into a film recently, but it's based in the American wetlands, maybe somewhere like Florida, somewhere like really hot and sticky, a bit like it is in the UK today. And it was
Ireland.
it was hot there too. Yeah, it was a young girl whose friend was charged with murder, and it was the nice story about. Nice is probably the wrong word. A very interesting story into like 1940s America.
Oh,
yeah, that one just sticks in my mind. It has a twist at the end.
Okay. Give me a favorite place that you would go to that is your kind of go-to place that you say, do you know what, I need to get away and go there for a weekend or a week.
I am going to say, I think this is kind of an easy one. I've got a family who live down in Devon, so in the UK, that's South Coast, and a place called Lyme Regis, which is a little seaside town. It might be even a Dorset Devon border. So South Coast, it's a stony beach, but it's famous for fossils. So Mary Anning, who's a famous fossil hunter, found loads of fossils there, and as a geologist, and that's where my heart started off. In there, as many family holidays in the cliffs, you pull out loads of fossils, and in the ground on the beach. So that's where I would go.
Very
have
cool.
Ice cream and go fossil hunting.
Something of interest about you that not many people would know. This is the final one.
I've got a couple actually, but what I'm going to say is that I grow flowers commercially on the side. So as a side hustle, I have a flower field. It's a third of an acre. And the last 2 years, it's been transformed from a meadow into a growing area where we've ploughed and everything's done by hand. So basically no tools and no tractors, no chemicals, no pesticides. And I grow organically flowers for florists or for my own use, floristry, churches, weddings. Yeah.
Well,
so that's what I do. My weekends and evenings are spent outside doing that.
Weeding over, like, was it an acre? Did you say an acre?
It's a third of an acre, but that's enough.
Weeding a third of an acre, my God, by hand.
Yeah, by hand, no chemicals.
No.
I know. To be fair, it's not weed free. I'll put my hands up. I just focus on the flowers.
But actually, earlier on in the podcast, I was nearly going to ask you, there seems to be sort of entrepreneurial traits in you, if you don't mind me saying so. There seems to be some sort of a business type. You have that business persona about you.
I come from a family of self-employed people. I am the only person who has a corporate job so that's probably where it comes from. My parents are self-employed, all my siblings are, my cousins. It's just me, and they cannot understand why I stay in a corporate job. And I say, well, when I shut my laptop at 5 o'clock and you're still replying to people at midnight, that's why.
Yeah. No, but you definitely have some brilliant entrepreneurial traits. And there you go. Yeah. So look, come back on, please, when the legislation kicks in. We'd love to see what that looks like and how that's going to impact for the better in construction. And just to say, well done to you. It's a credit to you and your company as well, by the way. For embracing this, and sort of like it's no mean feat to spend the time, the energy to get out there and promote it, and you very much came across that you were convicted. You had the conviction to see it right the way through, and it's a brilliant story. So yeah, definitely come back to us.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. It's lovely to have a platform to preach.
Jane, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Because I'm sure there's some people out there that go, yeah, wouldn't mind having a chat about that.
Yeah, definitely. LinkedIn's probably the best way. So Jane Middleton on LinkedIn. And you'll probably, as soon as if you find me or follow me, you'll be not bombarded, but you'll see a lot of posts about PPE and high-vis clothing. Brilliant. So then you know you've got the right one.
We'll drop the link in the show notes. Jane, look after yourself and well done. Congratulations. We'll see you again in the future.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.